I had some thoughts about the Torgast raid, which I know is just still being data mined, so who knows what could actually happen with that. But as far as what we do know, based on the data mined titles of the phases, I had some thoughts as to where this might be going. And a lot of you by now know that I am a total Sylvanas shill. I think she's doing what she's doing for reasons, and I think they're good reasons. And I think this Torghast raid, we're probably going to get at least some insight into whatever her reasons are. I think a lot of this has to do with life and cycles and just how unfair all of it is. We're basically being manipulated into an endless life loop. That's what I'm getting from the Shadowlands. We're not dying. We're not getting whatever the afterlife should be. We're not getting our eternity. We're getting actual afterlives. We're getting more life, but in servitude, and we don't even have a choice. It's in servitude of whoever some robot decides we need to serve. So I think what we're going to see during this Torghast raid is we're going to see some of the unjust choices, if you will, some of the decisions the Arbiter made in regards to certain other characters, or at least maybe get some hints there. And we're already questioning where some of our old NPCs ended up. So I think during this Torghast raid, I mean, look at some of what Sylvanas drops. She drops Old Soldier. We haven't actually come across Sourfang yet. We don't know what became of him. And then we are going to get some of Ner'zhul. So I think Torghast is going to reveal some of the Shadowlands' secrets about their purpose and how things work, or rather don't work. They certainly work the way they were designed to, but that doesn't mean that they're working the way the natural order of things should work. Someone messed with it. And I think Sylvanas has really been trying to set us all free, like she said from the start. We are just in this continual life loop. It's not like the cycle of life where we live, we die, the next generation crops up and does the same thing. No, this is more like the same souls just keep recycling. And I think that's why when we look at the cosmology map, we do sort of see a loop. We see Azeroth, and then we see the Emerald Dream and the Shadowlands, and they're in a loop. We know that Ardenweald is basically where souls go to reincarnate. Reincarnation is just coming back through the loop of life. We're just re-emerging again. So if we're in this endless loop, what does that mean for souls who, like Sylvanas and Arthas, are deemed evil, for lack of a better term? They did horrendous things. What does that mean for them? Sylvanas has basically said that there never was a choice. You're just being controlled. Death is manipulating everything from behind the scenes. You're just a puppet. You're doing their will, even in life. And then when you die, you're still serving. I think Torghast and probably Icecrown, I think the two work together to sort of serve as the connector, to make the loop. I think she's going to tear it down. Torghast, possibly Icecrown, I don't know, when Torgast falls, what happens to Icecrown? If they are connected, if they are two parts, I don't know. But I think she's going to just completely obliterate it in order to break that loop. What is that going to do? Well, if the Shadowlands is essentially this giant net, if you will, to catch all the souls and then sort them into wherever they're going within the Shadowlands, then maybe by tearing down Torghast, she tears a rift through that net, the net is gone, I don't know. But maybe the souls start going to where they're actually supposed to go. Maybe they are supposed to go into the Maw. Maybe the Maw isn't really part of the Shadowlands. Maybe the Maw is part of something else. Maybe the Maw is part of death. If the Shadowlands exist as like this separate realm, and all things are connected to it somehow, what if somebody, I'm not even gonna get into the who, but what if somebody designed it such that souls were not dying at all? Yeah. What about this whole life loop seems natural to anybody else? Like, does this make sense? So maybe Sylvanas, although her methods may be questionable, maybe she's doing the right thing, ultimately. Just not in the best possible way. Or at least, not in the most forgivable way. I think what it may come to is, by the end of the Torghast raid, we and Thrall, Jaina, everyone who's there, possibly everyone who's still back on Azeroth, I mean, we're kind of coming and going. Maybe everyone's going to understand exactly what Sylvanas has been trying to do. I don't know that understanding will be enough to forgive her methods, but I don't think she needs a redemption. The grand design that Sylvanas has been working towards seems to be to break this loop. She did say she wants to set us all free. I believe her. If we're just slaves to the torment, how long has she been saying that? And we've all just assumed she's talking about the Forsaken and what they're going through, and maybe there's more to it. Maybe we on Azeroth are literally just slaves to the torment, maybe even other planets. If everyone's just going to the Shadowlands, and the Shadowlands is a big net for catching souls and preventing them from ever truly reaching death, then are we really just slaves to the greater cosmic forces? To whoever designed the Shadowlands? To the Eternal Ones who rule over the various realms of the Shadowlands? I don't know. I think Sylvanas might be onto something here. Especially when you consider some of these realms are designed to re-deliver souls back into life. Reincarnation is just returning to life. So, and we do know that the Shadowlands has this connection to the Emerald Dream, which is very heavily life. So, why? Death didn't do this. I'm almost certain Death has no interest in giving souls back. Maybe a few here and there. I don't know. I'd like to think in real life, life and death work together and not against one another. However, this is World of Warcraft. This is the cosmic forces apparently at war with one another on some grand scale that we're not supposed to understand. maybe they're not at war with one another. Maybe they're a healthy rivalry. Maybe some are even working together. I've always wondered if life, arcane, and light are working together against death, fel, and what's the other one? Shadow? Void? Yeah, that one. That one that we're completely forgetting about. I can't help but wonder if this isn't just a balancing act. I know we've got the Whispers, and we're all pretty much sure that the hungering mouths refer to the cosmic forces, and that they're all competing with one another for power. I just don't know about that. I just feel like this may come down to a balance thing, especially since Elune keeps getting brought up, and Elune is apparently the Winter Queen's sister? Something? Whatever Elune is, she's balance, I guess. She's got light, she's got dark, she's got life, she's got death. So, I don't know, I'm kind of disappointed, really. I didn't ever want to find out exactly what Elune was. Like, unless Elune was gonna actually be Azeroth's, I don't know, avatar. Like, Azeroth is staying asleep, but some part of her consciousness was acting as Elune. That would have been cool. But if Elune's just gonna end up being the sister of the Winter Queen, I guess I feel as underwhelmed by that as I did about the whole N'Zoth ending, which I'm still hoping is just a false ending, and that we're gonna go back to Azeroth and it's just gonna be all tentacly, but that's a whole nother thing. The thing with Torgast. If Torgast and Icecrown are creating a sort of soul loop, where does Undeath fit in this? Because, I mean, are they just tools for the jailer? The way one Samdi described Sylvanas made it sound as though Undeath is the enemy of death, and yet the jailer seems to be working for death. But by creating the Lich King, he's creating undeath and orchestrating undeath. Like, what is going on there? So, I'm thinking Sylvanas is not stupid. She's not a pawn of the jailer. She's been known to work with others in the past as long as their goals and her goals are aligned. Up to the point in which they're no longer aligned, then she moves on. She does her own thing. And if that means stabbing her former partner in the back and doing what she has to do, then she does. She seriously just doesn't care whether someone likes her or... She's Sylvanas. Alright, she gave her life for her people only to have them call her a monster. Just because, you know, she was dead. I mean, once you've gone through that, do you really care what anyone else has to say about you? You're not trying to earn favors. So, yeah, you maintain a partnership as long as it's within your interest, and then, hey, burn that bridge. Or tree. Or, yeah, that was in bad taste, I'm sorry. A little sorry. A little bit. But, no, I don't think Sylvanas is going to be working with the jailer after this. Whatever the jailer's plans are, I think she knows them, but I don't think she intends to follow through. Not the whole way. She may not necessarily betray him. I mean, hey, maybe they have an understanding. She's gonna serve her purpose so long as it's in her interest, and once they accomplish up through this much of his plan and whatever her goals are, like their goals split, he goes this way, she goes this way, no hard feelings, maybe that's all there is to it. So with the Torgast thing, I mean, he's essentially free, so he can go do whatever, right? He's not going to need any help once he's free. I mean, as long as she's not actively interfering in what he's doing, hey, that seems like an amicable split. So she can do whatever it is that she's ultimately trying to do. And I have speculated before that her goals may be more towards securing a peaceful afterlife, or whatever happens to the undead as they decay and eventually do, like, they're not immortal. They do eventually just completely disintegrate, rot, fall apart. I think she's seen what becomes of their souls and is doing all in her power to secure them some sort of peace. That's one possibility, at least. She also may very well at this point be just outright raging war against the puppet masters, if you will, those pulling the strings behind death. Maybe she's trying to secure a peace, an eternal peace for all of us, by giving us true death, getting rid of the net, breaking the loop, whatever awaits beyond the Shadowlands. I mean, if you look at the map, that good old map that we just all keep going back to, which may or may not even be accurate, if you look at that map, the Shadowlands is here. It's part of this internal loop with Azeroth. Death is all the way over here. Not even remotely connected to the Shadowlands. Death is something much bigger. And I don't think we're actually seeing it. So Vanus may know. Then again, maybe not. We don't know how long this endless life loop has been in play. We don't know how long exactly eons is, but probably long before she died at the hands of Arthas. And if that's the case, whatever she may have seen, if she did see peace for a brief moment before being brought back, I don't think it was death. She may have caught a glimpse of what the afterlife that would have been chosen for her, what her zone may have been, what her covenant may have been. If she was intended for someplace like Ardenweald, or even possibly the Kyrian, I mean, that might have seemed like peace. But we did just get a glimpse at what happens to someone who's killed by Frostmourne, and what happens to that soul. So I don't really buy into that. I think Sylvanas has known pretty much from the start what awaits. She may not have had the full comprehension of it, and I doubt very seriously she knew what to do about it. But certainly over time, over the expansions, and in her gaining of an alliance with the Valkyrie, I'm sure they shared a thing or two with her. And I'm sure Helya shared a thing or two with her. She's gained knowledge and probably has had a plan for a while. I won't say as far back as Cataclysm. No, I think at the time her goal was just to protect her Forsaken from Garrosh and not let him use them as fodder. I think she started formulating her plan around the time of Vol'jin's death. I do think his death affected her greatly. I think Varian's death affected her greatly. And during that cinematic when she became War Chief and she turned to the Horde and said, "Who among you will avenge him?" I do think she has had every intention of avenging Vol'jin's death among many others. Like, he was just the last straw for her. She couldn't protect anyone. She couldn't prevent what happened, even with all her knowledge of the afterlife. And she's known for a while that they're all just being manipulated. So, yeah. I think this is all going back to that. I think this is all part of that. She's going to tear it down all right and set us free. I don't know what that means for the undead. I don't know what that means for Azeroth. But I think we're going to see some drastic changes. And I think some of the known characters, Anduin might very well already understand. He's a very understanding kind of guy. I think once the truth is witnessed, like, I think the tearing down of Torgast and during this raid and everything, we're actually going to see. I don't know if it's going to be so much as the characters are going to see memories or see for themselves what's going on, or whether it's going to be explained to them, whether Anduin's going to pop in and say, "Hey, this is what's happening." But I think they're going to gain an understanding of what it is she's trying to do. They more than likely still won't agree with the whole burning of the tree and some of her other methods, but it may soften the blow. They may be a little more understanding. Bane, I want to say Bane has it within him to appreciate that Sylvanas is trying to undo a wrong, a great cosmic wrong. That she's trying to free everyone's souls. I think the Tauren being rather spiritual and how they feel about I think Bane has the potential to understand, but I don't think he's going to forgive. He's been through some things during BFA, so I don't think he's going to be forgiving. Thrall and Jaina have made their own mistakes in the past, went down the wrong path in the pursuit of good intentions, doing what they thought was right. We have seen their growth, we have seen them come to terms with their old selves, more recently in BFA. Maybe they will be a little more understanding. Especially if Anduin's there to sort of say, "Hey, this is what's going on." So he's kind of a mediator. I don't know that it's a redemption per se, more of a, alright, we're just gonna not pursue Sylvanas as the big baddie now. We're just gonna not necessarily let it all go, but we're gonna focus on the jailer and whatever he's doing. We're not worried about her anymore. Suddenly, she's not that big a deal. I think that's where that's gonna go. As far as her actual future, well, I don't quite think Blizzard's ready to shelve her. I don't think they're just gonna, "Oh, well, she's torn down Torghast, she's done her job, like, she's just gonna go off and do whatever." No, I don't think that's what's gonna happen. We're certainly not gonna kill her. They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't, well, they might. If there's a way to bring her back, which, if we're in a life loop, nobody's actually dying anyway, nobody stays dead. She did most of that. There's always a way. Blizzard always finds a way to bring people back, because, hey, If we messed up and we killed somebody we weren't supposed to, there's always the bronze dragon flight. I don't like messing with timelines. I just find it all complicated and messy. So let's hope we're not going to do anything involving timelines or messing with the past in any way, shape, or form, or other dimensions even, because can we just not? For the sake of not confusing players, can we just... How about we just don't kill Sylvanas at all? How about we just get to the end of Shadowlands and over time sort of spoon-feed forgiveness into at least the Horde characters. At least if the Forsaken, especially since Sylvanas still has her loyalist, I'm thinking if the Forsaken and maybe other Horde characters start understanding, okay, this was what awaited us. This is what she's been through. This is what she was fighting for. And this is what she's prevented from happening to us. And this is why. And especially if part of her motivation is the death of Vol'jin. And hey, what if we get Vol'jin back as our war chief? Isn't that enough of a reason for the Horde to say, you know what? Sylvanas did some evil to the Alliance, so yeah, welcome back, Sylvanas. Hey. I could see that happening. I could see her reclaiming her place as the leader of the Forsaken. If we somehow got Vol'jin back and he became leader of the Horde. I was actually hoping all through Legion that whatever Sylvanas was doing, and she kept wandering off and messing with forces of death she was trying to enslave Aegir and all that, I kept hoping, because of what she said in that first cinematic, and because of the look on her face. I mean, if you watch that cinematic again when she's made War Chief, she's clearly not happy. It really affected her. And I kept hoping that her motivation was to reclaim Vol'jin's soul somehow, to get him back. She does do a lot of minor bad things that sort of pile up and build a reputation against her, but for the greater good. So there's a balance there. I feel like she's a very dynamic, balanced character. Like most of us, we have both sides to us. We have that good and that bad, and in some of us it's a little more balanced than others. I feel like she is a complex, dynamic character whose story isn't always given to us in the best possible way. And I think they've been dropping hints since Legion, and definitely since the start of BFA, that there's a lot more going on with Sylvanas than what we're being told. And I know people are skeptical right now. They're saying, well, yeah, they said there was going to be gray area. They said the Alliance would have their controversy. Well, maybe there is gray area. And maybe the Alliance are about to have their controversy. It can't all be told in one expansion. Some expansions should be just simple, one story focused, not constantly blowing our minds, because, hey, our brains need a break. We can't all be playing that level of chess with Sylvanas all the time. I don't even know what dimension she's on now. Like, she's just out there. But other expansions really should take their time, tell the story correctly. If it takes another expansion to follow up, I'd rather Blizzard do it right. I'd rather they slow down. And I know people don't want stories carrying over to the next expansion, but honestly, if we look at BFA, I know, not again, must we? Yes. If we look at BFA and say, okay, this was supposed to be the battle for Azeroth between the Horde and the Alliance and maybe some old god stuff. Maybe their intent was all along not to focus on Sylvanas, not to have us questioning her just yet, not to have her be the centerpiece, but to really just start setting her up for the next expansion. And we were supposed to focus on the whole Champions of Azeroth thing, which of course we didn't because Azerite armor sucked, and then I'm sorry, but I didn't. Magni, Azeroth, the whole thing, and then the thing with the old gods, and then N'Zoth didn't get his real justice, and you know, he didn't get his screen time. He didn't get, come on. I think that was too much, too many stories that needed to be separated into different expansions, and just too much going on at once. I can see having 2 stories. I can see having this Horde and Alliance war right after we teamed up with the Legion, and this back and forth and all of this, and Sylvanas' motivations and the storytelling that they tried to do be separate. I can see that being held off because they wanted to wait and play it close to the vest until Shadowlands and then go into the whole Sylvanas, Undeath, all of this. I can see that. There were a whole lot of little hints about death being dropped all through BFA. So I can understand what they were trying to do, but because there were too many storylines, it just didn't work. So I want to say maybe N'Zoth and Najara should have been held off on and been in their own expansion and all that, but I can also understand that Blizzard maybe needed for us to kill N'Zoth. I don't know. If there's something going on with that it's essential that he's in the Shadowlands or whatever happened to him, then fine. Maybe that was necessary, but if it's not going to play a role in the current story, did it need to happen? Could we have waited until we went back to Azeroth and then have the Rise of Azar and the Visions of N'Zoth and all that, but had it told better? Yeah. I don't agree with how that played out, but that's because I don't know what their intentions are going forward. So I'll just leave that at that. The Torgast thing, which is what this is supposed to be about. I think we're gonna get some of those Sylvanas answers, but we're also going to start seeing more from her perspective. We're gonna see for ourselves just how messed up the Shadowlands, like really in my opinion, we should have already seen that. We should have seen that from day one. Like the moment that Thrall and everybody saw the Maw, and then seeing the rest of the Shadowlands once we got them out of the Maw, and the moment that Bolvar showed up, like all of these people, once they saw what death was, you would think a light bulb would have gone off somewhere. I would think that at least one of them would have said, this is odd. This isn't what I imagined death would be. At the very least, come on, Bane. Come on. As spiritual as the Tauren are and their beliefs, does this look like the eternity you would want? Is this okay? Is this sitting with you and your spiritual beliefs, right? Why is no one really openly questioning this? If it has occurred to any of them that something isn't quite right, well, why haven't they linked that thought with oh, Sylvanas is doing something, and she brought us here. Maybe we should be questioning her motives a little more and not just thinking she's some kind of psycho that's gone off the deep end. Bolvar's had a while to sit there in that throne and contemplate all of this. So, what's his excuse? If Icecrown and Torgast are linked, and he's known what's on the other side, and he's been using his willpower to fight it off, shouldn't he know a little more about Torgast and, like, maybe not the whole purpose of the Shadowlands and the Arbiter and all, but shouldn't he have some idea of Torgast and Icecrown, and if they are this endless life loop that basically just keeps regurgitating life? Sorry to put it that way, but that's how I'm viewing it. Like, the Shadowlands just keeps regurgitating life at us. We're not getting past this point. It's like, do not pass go. Just, back to life. What is that? So yeah. Destroy it, Sylvanas. Tear it all down. I'm for it. I'm for whatever the ensuing chaos is after. I guess I just have a thing for chaos. Predictability is boring, right? I don't like how the Shadowlands is structured to begin with, because never mind that the thing that's judging souls and sorting them is some kind of android? I'm not even sure. It's a construct. What could it possibly know about judging souls? Part of what makes up a person's soul, like a big part of what makes up a person's soul, is their life experiences. This thing was never alive. This thing doesn't have experiences. What does it know? Who is it to judge? How can you judge someone? Like, we as human beings feel like we cannot judge one another if we don't have the same experiences. And even those of us who do have similar experiences, we still can't judge one another. You can't judge a person without walking in their shoes. How does this thing decide who goes where? So there's issue number one right there. The fact that there's an awful lot of living and reincarnation going on in the Shadowlands, to me this is a problem. And this is where I can sort of get behind the idea of the Winter Queen and the Loon being sisters. If Alune and A&R are sisters, or are the same, one and the same, or something of that nature, then yeah, sure, maybe fine. But if all of them are various beings of life, then I can say, okay, so the Shadowlands is just another realm of life, really. It's not death. It's more like I said, it's a soul net, so it's a realm of souls. What happens when we destroy it? Are those souls freed? Is Sylvanas not only talking about freeing all of us alive on Azeroth, but when she says free us all, like all of us? Everyone, every soul in the Shadowlands, every planet whose living mortal beings are currently being sent to the Shadowlands when they die? Like, is she destroying a cosmic link that's preventing all of these souls from all of these worlds from ever reaching peace? From ever actually making it to eternal sleep and death and whatever awaits us? Because to me, If that's her goal and she's willingly doing this and she knows what she's doing and that is the plan, that to me speaks of someone who does not need redemption. There is nothing to be redeemed there. That is worth burning 100 trees. I mean, in her mind, who cares? They're just going to be reincarnated. They're just going to go to Ardenweald. She knew that. If Sylvanas really is setting all of us free by destroying Torgast, if she's releasing all souls to whatever their rightful place is, then that is a greater cosmic good, I would think. That is a more powerful, positive act than all of her combined negative acts. Especially if she knew that it wouldn't matter how many lives she killed. If she knew, and from what I gathered from playing through BFA, it sounded like she was trying to tell us over and over again that it doesn't matter. That dying doesn't matter. That life doesn't matter. It's like she was trying to drop that hint, and there are a few parts of BFA where I almost feel like she's just outright telling us it's pointless, all of this, and we're not listening. And she's trying to show us, and she's trying to prove it. Like, hey, you're dead, I killed you, but here you are again. So, who cares? Who cares if I killed a bunch of night elves in a tree? Here they are again in Ardenweald. Here they are. They're not gone forever. Sylvanas is trying to tell you that you don't understand what's going on. And she's right. So, I'm kind of wondering, when she's killing and raising night elves on the Dark Shore, are they finally seeing what's going on? Is that why some of them were able to just, oh, yeah, I'm angry too now, I'm going to join up? I just kind of want to know. Because a lot of us assume that Sylvanas just loses her temper, reacts out of anger, and that's certainly a possibility. It may be part of it, it may be all of it. But what if it's not? Death isn't what you think it is. I'm going to kill you and show you. And now do you see? Knows the consequences. This wasn't something with dire consequences. If this was something where she knew that those souls were going to be tortured, they were going to be devoured by something, they were going to be lost forever, it might have been much harder for her to actually do that. But because she knew what was on the other side, and even if they all had gone to the Maw, obviously the Night Elves went to Ardenweald, so not all souls go to the Maw, even when they're set up to supposed to. She clearly knew this. So I don't think this was a great, horrific act on her part. I think this was, I'm trying to tell you something, I'm trying to show you, I'm trying to anger you enough to want to do something about it. And it certainly was effective in starting a war. And considering the ultimate goal of that war was really just to get as many lives into the Shadowlands as possible, I don't know if it was to strengthen the jailer, thus strengthening her power. I don't actually think her power comes from the jailer. She may have picked up a new trick along the lines, but I don't think it comes from him. And I don't think it's directly related to his strength or how many souls are in the maw. I think she had that power and she was holding on to it until the right moment. I just wonder, would it have been better for her to just go to Icecrown and destroy the veil to begin with? Or did she need the war for another purpose? Did she need to make us angry? Were the souls going into the mall really necessary? I feel like there's more to that. There's more questions there that I would like for Blizzard to answer. Maybe some of those will be answered in Torgast as well. Maybe it had something to do with Torgast. If Torgast and Icecrown are the link, and she's trying to destroy them, what happens to all those souls that she sent to the mall? At the very least, if she is ultimately freeing every soul, not only in the mall, but in all of the Shadowlands, and every planet that's connected to it, then she's doing something for the greater good, and all of the deaths really are irrelevant. Those souls, I don't know where they go. When they're freed, do they reincarnate? Do they go to death? What happens to them? I have a feeling there's going to be a good bit of dialogue between us and Sylvanas during this raid, and she's going to try again to make us understand. Now that we've seen the Shadowlands and we're there, do we still think this is right? Is this how we feel we should end up?